The $100,000 dream. We hear it all the time. If I can make just 6 figures, my life would be so much easier. I can finally do what I want, when I want, and not have to worry about money. I can go buy my dream car, lake house, vacations, designer clothes. I hate to shatter your dreams, but that's not gonna happen. I hate to break it to you, but 100 grand is not a lot of money, especially in today's environment. If we look at major cities like New York, San Francisco, LA, making $100,000 is considered low income. Now, I'll get more into income based on where you live and geography in a bit, but the reason I'm making this video is not to talk down upon anyone who's making less than that money, but it's to push you guys to pursue more than just one stream of income, because you'll see after watching this video, you're gonna need to make way more than $100,000. Yo, what is up guys? It's your boy Forrest, and in today's video, I'm gonna be going over why $100,000 isn't actually a lot of money anymore and giving you real examples of why that is. So strap in, because this is gonna be a real eye-opener. I have no idea why I did that. Okay, so how can I sit or stand here and say $100,000 isn't a lot of money considering the average salary in the US right now is $52,000? Well, the reason is because our environment is a lot different, and I mean a lot different than what it once was a couple of years ago. We just had the Fed, or the Federal Reserve, pour trillions of dollars into the economy these past 2 years, and because of this, everything has gotten so much more expensive. Your gas prices can vouch for that. Today, if you're making $100,000 and living in San Francisco, the most expensive city to live in the US, you're actually considered low income. And there was an article put out just a few years ago by MarketWatch that showed how $100,000 or making $100,000 could actually leave you $2,000 negative every single year, which is just insane to think about. And if you want to just get by in San Francisco, just live a basic average life, you need to make $104,000, which is more than double the average salary in the US today. See, everyone thinks $100,000 is a lot of money, which it is. I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot of money and it's a huge accomplishment as well. But when we start to break it down monthly, you'll see that it's really not that much money. If we whip out our handy dandy paycheck calculator, let's say you're making $100,000 gross and you live in San Francisco, the most expensive cost of living city in the US. Now, don't worry if you live in other areas, I'll get into those examples in a bit, but for some reason, everyone and their moms wants to move to California. So I'm gonna go with this example. So with the $100,000 yearly pay, your monthly salary would come out to $5,532 after federal and state taxes. You can thank California for that. Now let's get into living expenses, because you gotta live somewhere, right? According to Rent Cafe, the average rent is $3,230. Now, I know it's absurd. You don't gotta tell me twice, because I pay like half that. Now, obviously you can find cheaper rent. Like I have a friend that lives in a hostel in LA for about $1,500 a month, but he only gets one tiny room and he has to share a bathroom with like 4 other people. Now, I don't know how many of you guys would be cool with that, but that ain't gonna fly for me. So with rent averaging about $3,230, it's going to take away 58% of your income right off the bat, which is not good because realistically your housing payment should be less than 30% of your monthly income. So with that leaves you with $2,302. But hey, you live in Cali, right? You can't look like you're poor, so now you have to drive a decent car as well. Let's say the car is about $500 a month. With that, you need to get insurance, which would be probably another $120 a month. People gotta eat, right? So another $500 for groceries and eating out. And you can't forget your phone and utilities now, can we? That would be another $200 a month. After all those expenses, you're left with $982. $982 is what you're left with every single month with a $100,000 per year income. Just imagine that. Mind you, this is only for single people too. Imagine having a family. And what's crazy is I didn't even take into account expenses for your 401k or other insurances that you might have, like health, dental, and eye. Now, holding on to that thought, I want to show you how far $100,000 would go somewhere else. But before I do, let's assume you have a remote job and you move to beautiful Augusta, Georgia. Augusta, Georgia is what I found to be a cheap but also safe city to live in. Firstly, in Georgia, you'd be saving $3,700 on taxes every year because Georgia state income tax rate is only 5.75% compared to California's 9.3%. The average rent in Augusta is $1,071, which is $2,159 cheaper than San Francisco. And the best thing is the rent is only going to make up 18% of your income, which is well below that 30% threshold that we need. If we then apply the same cost as we did in the previous example, the car payment is $500, insurance is $120, $500 for groceries and eating out, $200 for utilities and phone bill, which after all you're left with $3,452 extra every single month, which comes out to $30,000 more every single year just by living in another state. Now, if we were to go just one step further and invest that $30,000 over 35 years at an 8% return, you would have made $5 million more as opposed to living in Cali. This is the power of investing your money for the long term, because now your money has the opportunity to work for you. Alright, quick break from the video. I want to share something with you guys that I've been using a lot more recently that I think will benefit you guys a lot as well. Now, I know there are a ton of crypto exchanges out there right now, but one I've been really loving recently is PrimeXBT. It's one of the largest crypto exchanges out there, and I've been using it for, honestly, I don't even know how long at this point. In my opinion, they probably have the most features I've ever seen in just one crypto exchange. Not only can you trade crypto, but you can also buy and sell forex and stock indexes. But I think the best feature they have is the fact that you can copy other people's trades. Yes, they have huge professional traders on their platforms that share their trades on PrimeXBT, and you can legit take that and just copy those trades. And the best part is the exchange automatically takes those trades for you. It honestly can't get more passive than that. So if you guys want to check out PrimeXBT, they're giving away up to $7,000 in signing on bonus. All you have to do is sign up using my link down in the description box below and deposit some money, and you'll be eligible. That's all I have over here. Now back to our scheduled program. Now, a big issue on hand right now is a lot of people are overlooking inflation. Now, you might not know what inflation is, which is fine because I'm going to get into it, and you probably might not know the severity of it, but trust me, after hearing what I have to say, you're going to be shocked too. Inflation is pretty much the rise of prices around us, and I'm sure you're feeling all this with your gas prices today. For the month of May, inflation was at 8.6%, meaning everything from last year is 8.6% on average more expensive, which is not a good thing. Now, I was watching a Pomp video about this. Now, he's basically just a really big investor, but he was saying something really incredibly interesting is happening right now. He was going over a tweet showing the increases of CPI. Now, CPI pretty much stands for Consumer Price Index, which is basically the change in prices over a time period. Now, he was saying the number that we are seeing today are actually very, very understated, meaning they're lower than what they should be. Basically, he and a lot of other people think inflation is much, much higher than 8.6%, which is what we're told today. And the reason for this is because the way the government used to calculate inflation rate has changed a lot in the past couple of years. Basically, what happened was originally inflation and the CPI was calculated by looking at a fixed basket of goods and services. For example, like prices for bread, milk, or like car washes, and comparing those prices over a time period and seeing how much they increased or decreased. But as time went on, the US Congress changed how they measured this. Now, I won't get into all the details because it gets too in depth, but basically, a lot of people don't believe what the government is saying, and that inflation is actually supposed to be much higher than 8.6%. And the thing is, a lot of big economists agree that this new way of calculating CPI and inflation is not the best way of doing it, and is not the best indicator of current inflation. And the funny thing is, the report says there's only a 5.1% increase in housing market prices, which doesn't make sense because rents are up 16% over the last year and home prices are up 20%. Look, I'm not an economist or anything, but I did the math and something's not adding up. Now, why is this such a big deal? It's just one number, right? Well, misleading inflation numbers can have a huge impact on how investors view the economy. See, inflation is used to calculate our GDP rate, which is basically a rate that shows us if our economy is growing or if it's shrinking. The real GDP rate for Q1, so months January, February, March, and April, were negative 1.4%. So if in theory inflation was at 15%, what a lot of people think it really is at, that would mean our GDP rate is negative 8.1%, which is a huge difference because remember, we're dealing in trillions of dollars. So if inflation is being massively understated, which I think it might, that would suggest to investors the economy is pretty strong, but in reality, it's not. Now, if this is true and the real inflation rate is over 8.6%, the first thing that comes to my mind is, why is the government doing this? Why are they saying the inflation is only 8% when it really isn't? Well, my theory is if they did increase inflation to 15%, that would automatically send us into a recession because the Fed would have to come in right away and increase interest rates. But if they were to do that, that would signal a huge panic sell for investors and cause the markets to drop as well. A big economist behind this whole controversy is someone called John Williams, who has his own website that shows what the inflation rate would be if the government was still using the old way of calculating stuff. And the graph that he has is actually pretty crazy. From this chart, we can see that if the US Congress were still using the old way of calculating things like they did back in the 90s, the 8.3% inflation rate that we have being reported today would actually be 16%, which Honestly, I don't even want to think about what would happen if we had inflation at 16%. Regardless of whether or not the current inflation rate is being reported way lower than actual, I think it's pretty safe to say that inflation is really getting out of control. Now, even though you're making $100,000, realistically you aren't, because you don't have $100,000 worth of purchasing power. You might only have $85,000 worth of purchasing power. So what can you do? Number one thing is not relying on one source of income. Make investments, start things. That way an extra income can somewhat cancel out inflation. All in all, I hope you guys take away that when you get that fancy six-figure salary, which I hope we all do, don't be content with it, because you can always make more money. And right now, we might just need to. But that's all I had for you guys today. As always, do your own research if you guys take this advice and plan to invest. But let me know what other things you guys would like to hear down in the comment section below. Also, if you guys are interested in buying crypto, as always, I suggest checking out crypto.com. They have all the top coins you guys would ever like to buy. So if you guys are interested, I'll leave a link to it down in the description box below. But as always, I really do hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in next week's video. Peace.